All right, so in chapter 7, we're still continuing to talk about long term memory. This time, we're going to talk about some processes related to long term memory. So, encoding, retrieval, and consolidation. So, when we encode, that's when we take in or acquire the information and transfer it from our sensory memory to our short term memory and then to long term memory. When we retrieve information, we take it from our long term memory where it's been stored and we send it to our working memory so that we can actually utilize the information we need to utilize. Maintenance rehearsal occurs when we repeatedly use a stimuli, and when we do that, we are able to maintain information because it does not transfer into long term memory. So, what that means is when we repeat a stimulus but it doesn't get transferred to our long term memory, then we've engaged in maintenance rehearsal. What we really need for information to transfer to our long term memory is elaborative rehearsal. That's when we create meaning, we make connections, we think about the information in a deeper way. That's what helps us transfer it to our long term memory storage. So, memory depends on how information is encoded. We've got depth of processing, which says that you can either process things shallowly or deeply. Shallow processing involves little attention to meaning, a focus on only physical features, and poor memory. So there's not a lot to shallow processing. It's indeed shallow. Deep processing occurs when you pay close attention to whatever it is you're studying to create meaning so that it sticks in your memory a lot better. When it comes to encoding information, whenever we can use visual imagery, self references, use the generation effect, or organizing the information, relating it to survival, or using retrieval practice, those are all aids. There are other things that we can use to help elaborately rehearse the information. So there was a study by Bransford and Johnson in 1972 over the organization and comprehension of long-term memory. And through this research, we learned that when we are presented with difficult to comprehend information, one group of people saw a picture that helped them explain the information before reading it, and another group saw a picture after reading the passage. The control group didn't see the picture at all. Through this research, group one outperformed the others. So the group that saw the picture that helped them explain the information before they read it, they were able to have a mental framework to comprehend what they were reading. So it aided in their memory, in their recollection of the material. So having those mental images can help us remember. And when it comes to retrieval, there was another study done in 2008 which studied whether or not people were able to and how people are able to retrieve information from their memory. There were 3 groups. The first group studied and tested all words in all sessions. The second group studied only words that were missed in previous tests. And the third group studied all the words, and they were only tested on words that were missed in previous tests. So from this research, group 3 did worse than groups 1 and 2. And that tells us that when we test memory, retrieval, it can improve memory, because group 3 was the only group that didn't have that happen to them. So when it comes to retrieving information, we've got to transfer that information from our long-term memory and send it back to our working memory. And we have to consciously do that. Most failures of our memory are failures to retrieve. So it's when you can't get the information out. Like if you're taking a test or something like that, you're being asked to go find the information in long-term memory, retrieve it so that you can answer the question. But if you can't remember the information, then you've had a failure to retrieve. Cued recall, that's most of our failures of memory are failures to retrieve. Cues can be presented to help us remember, and that can increase our performance over free recall. So that's like if you are taking a multiple choice test and you see the words there, that can help be a cue to you to remember or recall the information. When it comes to encoding and taking the information in, we learn information together with its context. So we are better able to recall things that occurred when encoding and retrieval occurred in the same location. So that just says that if we're trying to learn something, we're going to be able to take it in if we take it in and then we later retrieve it in the same place. State dependent learning is learning that's associated with a particular state of mind or an internal state. So you have better memory if your mood is the same as the mood you were in when you encoded the material. So it's dependent on your state of mind. If I'm really happy, I'm probably going to be able to remember other times when I was really happy. If I'm really sad or depressed, I'm probably only able to remember other times when I was sad or depressed because of state-dependent learning or memory. Transfer appropriate processing says that our memory task results improve if the type of processing used during encoding is the same as the type of processing we use during retrieval. And that's just like we just said. It's going to be easier to remember information if you encode it and you retrieve it at the same time or in the same place. When it comes to memory consolidation, we are able to transform new memories from fragile states to more permanent states. So in the synapse, we can have consolidation, which is rapid. It occurs at the synapses. And then we can have systems consolidation, which is gradual. It involves reorganization of those neural circuits. And there has been a lot of research regarding synaptic consolidation and long-term potentiation. This is the idea that learning and memory are represented in the brain by physiological changes at the synapse, as you can see in this picture. The neural record of experience is recorded, and those synapses are structured in a certain way. When it comes to long-term potentiation, we have enhanced firing of neurons after repeated stimulation. That's what helps form those long-term memories, and those structural changes can help enhance responding. When it comes to systems consolidation, that is after encoding, we have activity in the hippocampus that can fade with time. So after information has been taken in, it's either going to be stored in the hippocampus for later retrieval, or it's going to fade if it isn't elaborately rehearsed. When it comes to memory loss and injury, there's a standard model of consolidation that's based partly on observation of injury and trauma-related memory loss. You can have retrograde amnesia, where a person can't remember events that happened prior to their trauma. You could also have graded amnesia, which is where memory for recent events can be more fragile than memory for remote events. There can be a multiple trace model of consolidation as well, which says that the hippocampus is activated during both the retrieval of recent and remote memories, and the response of the hippocampus can change over time. Memory consolidation also appears to be enhanced during sleep. And a reason for that could be that whenever you sleep, there's no interference from any type of outside environmental stimuli that could be competing for your time. So when we sleep, we're trying to recover, we're trying to reflect on our day mentally and have those memories enhanced. Some memories can also be consolidated more than others. There could be memories for tasks which are stronger when participants are expected to be tested after they are awakened. When it comes to our memories updating and reconsolidating, retrieved memories become fragile and are often consolidated again. And then memory is a work in progress. That tells us that we're constantly constructing and remodeling them in response to learning and different conditions we go through. When it comes to post-traumatic stress disorder, this is a disorder, an anxiety disorder that can cause severe emotional responses to traumatic experiences. So Burnett and coworkers in 2008 did a research study looking at PTSD and memories, and they found that participants reactivated a traumatic memory, and drugs that were administered to block the stress or amygdala fight or flight responses. Um, it helped block those during the reconsolidation of memory. And then later, they were reactivated, those same memories, to show a lower stress response. So if you are studying, if you elaborate, if you associate what you're learning with what you already know, you're going to more likely remember it. It's good to always generate questions and create a self-test. It's good to take breaks, space out the information, never cram. You want to study the information over time because your memory will be better if you have multiple short study sessions. Consolidation can also be enhanced by sleep after study. So it's okay if you study at night. Going to sleep can help those memories solidify for you. You also want to avoid the illusion of learning. So that means familiarity does not mean comprehension. Just reading over it and kind of knowing it doesn't mean that you understand it. Hopefully, this information helps you guys understand a little bit more of the structure of long term memory.